So Friday greetings, everyone. Any questions about anything before we talk about the exam? I think I'm picking up a psychic reading. I think I'm picking up something. I think I'm picking up a few questions that everybody's afraid to ask, but they really want to ask, but they're just afraid to. So one of the questions I'm picking up is, when is the exam? Somebody thinking that? Somebody thinking, when is the exam? Nobody's wondering when it is. I think somebody is. That's my psychic reading happening. So if you log on to the Moodle page, let's see, developing maintainable software, and you scroll down to the end, exam revision. There is an exam link to the exam timetable, if anybody's interested. There it is. Oh, there it is. Is it gonna? Oh, yeah, that's not very. Anyways, that will show you when the exam is. Did anybody look yet? Nobody looked. It's like, at least what I saw, it's on the 27th of January, which is the second to last day of exams. And I'm getting another psychic reading. Somebody's wondering some other question, but they're too afraid to ask. Is the exam in person or online or what? So the exam is both in person and online. In other words, you have to show up to a special location and then take the exam online. The locations have not been published yet. They're supposed to be published, I think, Monday? Yeah, and you'll see that on this pages here. Examination timetables and key dates. Examination timetable without locations. So with locations on the 12th of December. If it's not exactly on the 12th of December, I wouldn't be too shocked. So yeah, you turn up to a special location on campus and then you take the exam online. And it's a so-called ROGO or exam, SIS exam. That means it's online, taken with the keyboard and mouse, and you input using the keyboard and mouse answers to the questions. And the questions are typically multiple choice, typically. There's also a style of question called dichotomous, which means you can click multiple correct answers or multiple incorrect answers. It's not just one radio button, but it's a bunch of check boxes like true, false, true, false, true, false for one question. Right? Like, which of the following statements is true, you know? And then you have 5 statements. Am I correct in my psychic readings? Was somebody wondering about that? Okay, good. And there were 2 revision lectures already for the exam. This is the revision lecture on identifying responsibilities, and there's a recording there. The recording that happened last time didn't work because the sound didn't pick up. So I have the recording from last year there. It's the same exercise, the same solutions, and there's some exam revision there already from last week, identifying objects. And I actually have done you guys a favor. I've put together an exam revision spreadsheet. But before I do that, since I'm already on the Moodle page, I'll mention that there are some bonus lectures there for next week. So on Monday, there'll be a drop-in session in room C76, that's where I live. If you want to ask any questions about the exam or the coursework, you can just drop by. That's completely optional. I'm guessing nobody will show up, but it's there as an option. There's a bonus lecture there, recording. I gave a lecture last year about just some stories from industry, some fun stories from industry in the software development industry. So I have worked in the industry for a few different companies, which is very, very unusual for an academic, actually. Which is, you know, some people would call that good, some people would call that bad. But I tell you some stories, just for fun, really, it's just for fun. And you'll never see a lecture like that anywhere else. I've never seen a lecture like that anywhere, like at a university, anywhere. So bonus lecture just for fun. I also gave a lecture last year on advanced visual debugging techniques. That's also one you will never see anywhere on this planet at any university. So you're welcome to have a look at that one. That's very, very unique teaching material. Very, very unique. So we published that here at the University of Nottingham. It's very special, actually, so you won't find that anywhere else. And then there's a bonus lecture from Curiosity Software. That was from last year, so they gave a talk last year as well, but it was a different talk. I just thought I would put it there. And if I can remember, I'm going to put another bonus lecture there. It's called How to Prepare for Any Exam. So I gave a small, you know, just a 10-minute kind of piece of advice about how to prepare for any exam. Sort of a formula you can use to prepare for any exam. And it's a formula that I really wish I knew when I started high school, basically. It's such a great strategy. And I wish I never published it in the form of a written publication like I did with some of the other things. It's just a verbal kind of, here you go. Here's how to prepare for any exam. It's on my YouTube channel, so it's there, available, but I didn't put a link to it on Moodle. So you can still find it there if you're feeling really ambitious, and I forget to put a link to it here, if it's of interest to anybody. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done everybody a lot of work. I've done everybody a big favor. And I put together an exam revision spreadsheet. And this is actually part of my formula for how to prepare for an exam. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Does anybody have a recipe for how they prepare for an exam? Like an actual structured, systematic strategy that can be reproduced and systematically performed every time? Has anybody ever heard of such a thing before? Isn't it strange? We're like in this matrix called the educational matrix, and it's full of exams, and like maybe you've never had a systematic, reproducible strategy for preparing for an exam. Has anybody ever heard of something like that before? I'm gonna have to bring my earplugs next time to protect my ears from the loud noises in the room. Anyways, something to think about. So there it is. So what did I do to help you guys? What is the work that I did for you guys? I went through all the slides for the whole module, and then I identified the key terms and key topics to study that are examinable. So the suspense is agonizing, isn't it? The laptop is kind of old. It's one of the issues here. So I go through all of the slides, and then I identify the key terms and technologies, and then I write them down, and I do that in a very organized way. So I have a category of terms called core tools. Right? These are tools that you all are familiar with: Java, JavaDoc, IntelliJ, JShell, Git, GitLab, Git Messages, Maven, Gradle, JavaFX, FXML, JUnit. These are kind of extra, what I call extra tools, visual paradigm. Oh, JShell should be not appearing in both, so JShell you can just delete from that one. And Scene Builder. And then so this is just going through all the slides and identifying the important terms, right, and categorizing them under different headings. Maintainability principles, object-oriented software design, which is my favorite topic in the module. Programming in Java, which is also my favorite, second favorite, tied for my favorite or second favorite. All the different Java principles, programming principles. That's the longest list, I guess. There are reoccurring example applications that keep coming up. So chances are, like, if there's a scenario in the exam, there's a good chance that it's gonna use one of these examples from the module. There's UML is a pretty big topic, these different UML diagrams. Design patterns is a pretty big topic. And open source software. And then I've also assembled the useful links. These are useful resources that are given throughout the module, and I've just compiled them together in a kind of nice and organized list. There are Java resources, IntelliJ resources, Java Swing resources, Git, lots of Git resources, design pattern resources, JavaFX resources, Java modules and module info.java, open source software, README, advice, and so on. I don't think I've included every single URL. I probably missed some because there are so many. It's hard to keep track, actually. So yeah, certainly there are some missing. Yeah, so that might be one that, if you want, you can refine, given the starter there. Any questions about the exam or revising for the exam? Is it Ronak?
Yeah. Will you have to write any Java code?
Will you have to write any Java code? That's a very good question. No, you won't actually have to write any Java code for the exam. It's possible that you are given Java code and then asked questions about that code. Like, here's a code snippet, what's wrong with it, for example, is a pretty common question. Yeah, very good question, by the way. It would be more fun if there was an exam question that says write a procedure to do the following, and then you were scored. That would be more fun. Okay, I'll tell you something. I don't really like that style of exam question, so I put the exam together. I don't really like that style of exam question where it says write a procedure to do this, make sure it compiles, make sure it runs, you know, have a test input file or something like that. I don't like that style of exam question. Because it's probably, could be my personality, it could be my philosophy, but I am not a quick person. Like, I don't do things really, really quickly. Like, exams have this really fast temporal component to them. Like, get this thing done really fast. Like, you have 60 seconds to write a procedure to do this. And that's just not my style. Like, I don't like that. I never have liked that. And I actually don't think software should be developed that way. I don't think we should be hurrying as fast as we can to develop software. I think it should be done like more slowly, more carefully. It should be done carefully because the consequences of software are huge, right? When something crashes, the consequences are huge, can be very, very big, right? So I personally, when I write software, I take my time, I do it slowly, I do it incrementally, but the result is good. You know, it's a slower process. So I don't like that style of question, and so that's not the one that will appear on this exam. But the coursework is a good time for that kind of exercise. That's really what the coursework is about, writing the software. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever been asked a question and then you don't know the answer, and then 15 minutes later you're walking away and you're like, oh, I just remember what the answer is, or I know the answer now. Like, that happens to me all the time. I'm just not like, I'm not super quick with the way my mind works. It's like the task has to be offloaded to my subconscious or something, and then my subconscious works on it, and then it brings it back to the conscious mind. I don't even know myself, but I'm just not like a Mr. Super Quick person, Superman. And I always dislike these tests where you have to hurry, like it's a race. Better get going as fast as you can. Write as fast as you can for the next 1 to 2 hours. You know, I don't know, like, I question the whole educational system sometimes. How dare I? But I just don't, there aren't that many jobs and functions in society where your job is to hurry as fast as you can. I can think of a few, like Amazon warehouse, or waiter or waitress, or maybe a chef, or maybe a plumber or something, where you're like trying to go as fast as you can. But in software and computer science, like trying to go as fast as you can on a job, I don't know, like that just doesn't seem appropriate to me. Okay, any questions, any other good questions about the exam or anything like that? Also, there is the module, there is the student evaluation of the module feedback as well. So that should be, there should be a link to that on the Moodle page somewhere. Let's see. It's linked to SEM, Student Evaluation of Module Survey. So yes, if there's something you'd like to praise about the module, like thank you so much, Bob, for providing all this amazing material that we're going to be able to use after we graduate. By the way, this is material you can use after you graduate. That's not true about all the modules. Those debugging techniques that we talk about, the advanced visual debugging techniques, those you can use for the rest of your life, right? The coding conventions. You'll get to your first job. If you do a software development job, your first job is very, very likely to fix the mess that somebody left behind. That's basically what happens a lot. And if you look at part 2 or part 3 of Bob's concise coding conventions, there's a description of your first job, what happens, why you get this first job, what the history of your first job, why the job is available in the first place, and very typical like events in the software engineering industry. If you're at a job interview, a great question, so at the end of every job interview is the same question. Do you have any questions for us? This is the same question at every single job interview, so you may as well be prepared for it. And there's a bad answer to this. The bad answer, does anybody know what the bad answer is? Has anybody here ever had a job interview? The bad answer is no, I have no questions. That's the bad answer. That's not going to get you the job, actually. It could, but that's not the answer they want. You're supposed to have some questions for them. So one of the standard questions that you ask is, how did this position become available in the first place? You're applying for a job, it's an open position. Somehow it became available. What were the events that led up to that job opening? Right, there are certain events that led up to that job opening. And you can, with experience, anticipate the answer. If you're in the software development industry, the answer is often, does anybody know the answer? So it's kind of a rhetorical question. You should ask this question pretty much always. I guess you guys don't have the experience yet for this, but now you do. Well, I'm telling you. The answer is often that somebody quit, and boom, there's like a role that's not being fulfilled, right? Or somebody is leaving. And then the other question is, well, why are they leaving? But don't ask that during the job interview. So you're coming in, you're stepping in for somebody, or it's possible that you're coming to step in for somebody that's leaving. That's a very, very common scenario. Yeah. And then the question is, why are they leaving, and so on. And if you want to read more about that, you can look at Bob's Concise Coding Conventions Part 3. Like, what's going to happen. It's a prediction of the future based on past events. And by the way, this has happened to me. Right? This happens. So, okay, any questions about anything? Gesundheit. The energy in the lecture room is overwhelming me today. I don't know how I'm going to cope. Okay, if there are no questions or comments, any comments? If there are no questions and no comments and everybody's happy, we can stop. If anybody's unhappy or they have questions, you can stay and ask me questions until you're happy. Okay, we'll stop there then. Yeah.